Welcome to the Covenant Eyes podcast. It's Karen Potter with Covenant Eyes. I am checking in from Michigan. It is snowy here, but it's, February. So, well, actually, it's January. I'm getting ahead of myself. I want to go right into spring. So, if we could just jump into April, that would be great. Rob, can you make that happen?
I wish I could, but we got a ways to go yet, Karen.
Yes. Well, today we're talking about a really interesting topic. I actually learned about this organization at the Nicosi conference back in, gosh, it must have been 2019 when it was still in person and it was in Washington, D.C. And I remember learning about this organization and what they do, and I was really impressed. And so I'm excited, Rob. I don't know about you.
Yeah, very interesting topic. So let me introduce our guest today. Our guest is Mary Bawden. Hope I said that correctly?
Yeah.
Yeah, Mary is the founder of Dance Awareness. And Mary, would you just start out and tell us a little bit about yourself and your organization and how that came about?
Well, I was a little girl who just loved dance, but we moved 6 times in my first 12 years, and we didn't get around to enrolling me because we were just always moving. So the day came when I was 11, we had just moved, and my mother said, "It's time." Now, I was the youngest of four. And a child's perspective is very different than the adult perspective. I mean, by the time my parents got the new school, the new doctor, the new church, the new house, all that, they just had trouble getting around to dance class for Mary. And so I started dance at 11, and it was a wonderful connection for me. I had dreamed about it. I had hoped I'd like it. And I really did. It became a central part of my life. It followed me into high school. I had some wonderful training in Cicchetti Ballet by a lady named Sheila Darby, who founded Cicchetti USA. Then later on, I went and got a BA in modern dance from UC Riverside in California. That was followed several years later by a master's in worship with an emphasis in dance, because I led a church dance ministry for over 20 years, and I wrote a book on that. So I think you can safely say that I love dance, of course, healthy dance, and it's just part of who I am.
That's incredible. So, yeah, the reason we have you on today because is to talk about dance and the changes that we've seen over the last few decades, specifically in the culture of dance. Because I, like you, I enjoy dance. I grew up
Yeah.
doing forms of dance as well. And when my own daughter actually started to do dance, I noticed a change, and it wasn't a good change. I noticed that there was an over sexualized culture, the dance moves themselves, the costumes, things just didn't seem right. So we actually discontinued that and switched to sports, which was unfortunate. But I'd love to talk to you a little bit about the work that you do with your organization and how you're helping equip parents.
Well, I'll tell you and your listeners, when I was a little girl, I went to dance class. My parents dropped me off and I danced, and then they picked me up. And so at no time was I exposed to adult sexuality in that context. So it was a wonderful marriage and integration of mind, body, and spirit, which all the brain research says is great for kids. I call that healthy dance. But there has been a cultural shift from healthy educational children's dance to harmful hyper-sexualized children's dance in adult costumes, choreography, and music that is causing abuse and trauma for children. And the brain research shows that as well. So I founded dance in 2016 because I just was seeing so much in June dance recitals that was hypersexualized with high school students. Then I saw it with junior high students. Then I saw it with elementary school students. And then I even saw it with preschool students.
Mm.
And I just saw this pattern and trend that we're making children into mini adults. And I don't know that most adults are aware of this. And I would venture to say both in the parental sphere and as well as in the dance sphere. There's just a lot of people in a dance studio teaching it that seem to be unaware of what they're promoting. And parents as well are actually asking dance studios to do hypersexualized material. So I don't think it's just a dance problem, it's a cultural problem. And I like to connect the internet media and porn as an umbrella over our culture that has been feeding messages to the culture and normalizing what is not normal. And so dance is one of those portals. But actually, we're seeing the hypersexualization of children every place, but specifically in dance. It seems to be what dance studios are doing. Now, I will say there are a lot of dance educators like me that are appalled by this. And you'll hear more about what we're doing about that as we go on with the podcast. But I hope that answers your question just a bit.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, I think we totally agree with that, Mary. Just the culture today is just oozing that over sexualization. We see it affecting so many young people. I mean, not to sidetrack us here, but 50% of our kids are online by age
That's right.
5 now, and they're being exposed younger and younger and
That's
younger to
that's
this
right.
sexualization, and it's running through all areas of our lives. And so, Mary, if you could talk a little bit as parents who love dance and want to see their kids in dance, how do they find organizations that really, still respect the dignity of children and do protect them from that over sexualization?
Well, I'll tell you, a researcher named Gail Dines has called this culture for children a pornified culture. And she released some figures from the CDC that said parents are the protective factor for children. So parents have to be out there and asking questions. Gone are the days where we don't question. And so we have to go forward and just, I would say drop by a dance studio, check it out on the internet, look at their June dance videos, see what, they're doing, particularly their older girls, but now sometimes, elementary and preschool as well. I would tell parents that if you say to yourself, well, my child's 5, and so I'll just have them take dance class here for a while and then we'll switch. I don't recommend that because children look up to the older girls. There gets to be a culture in a dance studio where everybody starts wanting to do what the culture is. And if the culture is hypersexualized, then all the kids are going to be impacted by that. So I would just check out those June dance recitals. I would go to the dance studio owner and ask directly, what is your position on the hypersexualization of children in adult costumes, choreography, and music? You might have a chance to educate them and refer to our website. Everything's free. It's all research-based. And so we have trailers, all kinds of materials to help dance studio owners and parents with this issue.
That's awesome. We have a lot of churches that listen to our podcast. So church leaders, lay leaders, and people that just go to church that, are really interested in these kinds of topics, protecting their kids and protecting them from the over sexualized culture. A lot of them reach out to Covenant Eyes for those same reasons. If they go to your website, what kind of tools and resources do you have on your website to help parents or church leaders navigate this issue or find help when it comes to dance?
Well, we have so many research-based issues from articles to trailers you can share with friends that are short because we all have short attention spans. I'm holding up something right now called 8 Questions Parents Should Ask to Understand an Organization's Commitment to Safety. And it just has basic things like what are the protection for children in this organization? So it could be a dance studio, but it could be something like a Y or Girl Scouts or anything, just some basic questions. And we think it's excellent. We have a free ebook online. Again, I'm going to emphasize everything's free, everything's research-based, and it will take you through the steps of how to look for a dance studio. And we say, what's the new trend in children's dance? Well, it's hypersexualization. How do you choose a dance studio that would be good for your child? And so just all kinds of things, everything's laid out in a clear manner. It's only 15 pages. So if people get like, I want to read a whole book, it's short enough that you can follow it. It'll give you all the tips you need to know, and even questions to ask a dance studio owner if you're a little hesitant about that. Now we have other tools. We have something called the Dance Coalition. And if you look on Take Action right now on our website, there's something called the Dance Coalition. It's being formed this spring, but we're taking names right now. That doesn't mean you joined it. It just means you want to get information about it. I'm starting to work with the Dance Advisory Council, and we're going to be organizing it in a way that will really, we think, make a difference in how dance is perceived in the culture. So we're enlarging our scope. We also have something right now under Take Action called My Dance Why. And we invite anybody, actually internationally, who wants to record from their phone 15 to 30 seconds of their dance why they don't think the hypersexualization of children in dance is a good thing. And we do have a example video on the website for that. So those are just two things you can do right now. Two
Wow,
resources.
those sound wonderful, and they absolutely do. Mary, a little deeper question, and I don't want to put you on the spot here, but we talked about the word hypersexualization here. For our parents that are listening, can you explain that and what that looks like or manifests itself out in dance, just so they have a better understanding? Because I'm sure there's a fine line sometimes between just um, things that are wonderful and things that begin to move it into that
Okay, well,
area.
when we refer to a hypersexualized dance culture, we're really talking about a toxic sexual culture that really has adult material in it. And that's why we use the terms in dance awareness healthy dance and harmful dance. I'd love to share those definitions with you if we have time.
Yeah,
In
please.
yeah, in healthy educational dance, children look like children. Uh, and they're usually accompanied by a great sense of joy. In harmful, hypersexualized dance, children look like adults.
Hmm.
In adult costumes, choreography, and music, usually accompanied by adult hairstyles and makeup. Now, that's a simplified version for people that really need to hone it down and think in a very simple way. Now, in the ebook, we have a deeper definition for people that want to be more specific. I won't share that whole thing right now. This comes from YPAD. It's an organization that's defined this Youth Association in Dance. And these are some of the things in that. Movements that include sexual, suggestive grinding, humping the floor, sexually straddling a prop, back arches with bottoms to the audience in a suggestive manner, children spanking themselves or another dancer on the bottom, or running their hands up another dancer's body in a seductive manner. So those are just two, but they're more specific. So we're really talking about adult sexuality. I mean, a child should be choreographing a butterfly dance or, you know, dancing to a book they've read or exploring round shapes or, running and being a horse. And there's all kinds of things they can be doing in terms of movement that's so good for them. But you can see very quickly that those terms that I just described are putting a little person into an adult context.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think even the music too, sometimes you can identify the music that will also lead to those types of movements in the recital, when
And
the kids
actually,
are
I
there.
just yesterday got an email from a parent who was asking me, "What do you think of this situation. She said, I took my daughter to this dance class, and the lyrics in the song were horrible. And I don't think it's the right thing, but nobody thinks that there's anything wrong with that. And she said, what do you think? And I think you can tell what I wrote back to her. It's very inappropriate for a child to be exposed to adult lyrics. And why would we do that? Why are we doing this to children, to take away their innocence and to rob them of a childhood? And so we need to stand up as we educate ourselves, share that education with the people in our relational sphere so that we can come together and make a difference for our youngest citizens.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more with you. And I think there's going to be a lot of listeners on this podcast that can really take the information from your website and share it in their mom circles. I mean, moms usually, when we're looking for a class or something for our children, we will talk to other moms. And so this is a
That's
great
right.
opportunity for us to share this wisdom and knowledge in our churches, in our homeschool groups, and in our other groups that we have outside of school. So thank you so much, Mary, for sharing all this. How can our listeners find your website and get their hands on all of these great tools?
Well, you can go to www.danceawareness.com. You'll see DANCE there, DANCE, and that's an acronym for Dance Awareness, No Child Exploited. I think that kind of clarifies why we're there. And, we just have a lot of materials that we want to share with everyone. So there you go. And you can email me as well anytime.
That's
Perfect.
wonderful. Thank you. Yeah, and Mary, we'll put those in the show notes so our listeners have those. If they're listening and can't remember that, they'll be able to find that. So, Mary, thank you so much for what you're doing and also for joining us today. And to our listeners, thank you for listening in today. We'd love if you can share this or give us any feedback if you have it. Thanks for the time and thanks for listening.